You are now listening to Coach Ham's Chronicles, the show that spills all types of leadership tea for the aspiring leader of colour.
Hey, welcome back to Coach Ham Chronicles, the show that spills all types of leadership tea for your regular 9-to-5 that they do not tell you. I am your host, Coach Ham. Today's episode will be talking about competent versus confident, and which one are you? So let's get started. Competence is how good you are at something. Confidence is how good you think you're at something. And when we choose our leaders by how confident they appear rather than how confident or competent they are, we not only end up choosing more men to lead us, but ultimately we choose more incompetent men. Yeah, I want you to take a really deep thought about that one. So the skills that are needed to get a job done are in reality very different than those that actually get the job. So I saw an article recently that stated about 85% of companies start hiring based off of your emotional intelligence rather than the technical job that you have. Because let's be honest, you can learn how to do a job, but you can't change those who are jerks. You just can't. So some of the best leaders have often been found to know that their emotional intelligence needs improvement. And when it does, what's the difference between a competent leader or a confident leader? Here's a really interesting quote I found to be pretty weird, but yet I said, okay, let's try it. Men who display more empathy are not cutthroat in comparison to those men who lack empathy or self-awareness. They're also evaluated not as being confident enough in the workplace. So here's the question for tonight. Is this true? If you're a man, please email us at hello@ParamIntelligence or just comment on our YouTube page at Coach Ham Chronicles and leave us comments and let us know. Do you believe in this? If you're a man that either you lack empathy or self-awareness or you display more of it in the workplace, which one is better? Are you more cutthroat than those who aren't? Or is it vice versa? So why do people view confident other than competent, even when their performance suggests otherwise? One explanation I've seen is that we as humans tend to believe what we're told and to confirm our beliefs by selecting information that supports it. This term is used as confirmation bias. Now I've heard of unconscious bias, but this was a new one that I read when I started doing some research on the difference between competent and confident leadership. So let's put it into perspective. Let's just say you're working on a project and you know that this is something that you can do with your eyes closed in the middle of the night. If you start to project confidence, others will tend to believe you. Knowing what you're talking about, they'll end up filtering that ambiguous information that you're telling them, and it becomes an actual definition of faking it till you make it. Studies have shown that if someone is to ask you how you expect to perform, you should give a positive, confident response. And a negative forecast may lead you or others to perceive that you're less competent no matter how well you actually perform. So once again, that faking it till you make it might actually make sense. If you're able to exude competence, you will end up having more confidence and vice versa. I truly believe that to be an effective and competent leader, it's going to take a whole of person approach. I'm talking about having these other sets of skills that we don't traditionally talk about. We don't normally evaluate or analyze when you start interviewing people for new frontline managers or just even the C-suites. There's some key competencies that are associated with leaders that exhibit a higher level of EQ, which also include this transformational leadership or personal effectiveness. These are some of the things that your Bezos, Bill Gates, your Elon Musk are usually more focused on now than they were in their younger years. So here are a couple of things I want you to keep in mind. For those who are self-confident, this is one of the 6 most important facets of emotional intelligence. It's almost always as present in people that we admire and respect, but they also have to have their act together. We admire individuals who display a positive attitude towards themselves without being arrogant. So here's a perfect example. The leader that is transformational will focus on how they change their followers' attitudes and beliefs rather than telling them what to do. They'll focus on what these individuals are about, what values they believe in, and then they work to adjust accordingly. They're also able to inspire vision for their organization, and then they can translate it into their own vision, which then translates into a practical action, which also means better performance from those worker bees. Now, for those who lack self-confidence, here's some of the breadcrumbs that you should leave and those who actually need to pick up on them. You have difficulty admitting mistakes, your unwillingness to apologize, you're pushy, you're braggy. These are all the signs of people who have confidence issues. Now, while bragging might not always look like a confidence on the surface, people who are truly self-confident, they don't brag. If anything, they're usually humble. So for those who are often trying to convince themselves of their own worth, here are some things that you should be worried about. Looking incompetent, especially in the eyes of those who you admire. We can't always admit of our own shortcomings. We're not likely to take advantage of coaching or advice from our peers and potential mentors either. But if we're able to develop a high EQ and become successful, this is exactly what we have to do. We're going to have to be extremely self-aware of how we're coming off. You can be assertive and businesslike without being aggressive or running people over. We need to also, as humans, get back into the habit of realizing that we don't always have to have the answers, that we can be vulnerable in the workplace. It's not always a negative thing. It actually makes you more of a human to the eyes of people who are looking up to you and looking to you for answers. People who have a higher self-confidence level, they make just as many mistakes as anyone else. And they don't just let those mistakes take over their attitude. But when we fail, this gives us valuable information on what we can do differently. Failure becomes an important part of feedback that helps us not just readjust our attitudes, but also our behavior. Remember that good comes from a mistake. We can learn things, and often unexpected positive things can occur too. So until next time, this is your episode 6 of Coach Ham Chronicles. Peace.
A lot of shine, running up the number, that's a lot of crime. Try to take it from me, must be out your mind.